Please help our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share. Welcome to the Dead-Celebs podcast. Tonight, we're going to talk about the unfortunate life and death of Bobbi Kristina Brown.
Welcome to the Dead-Celebs podcast with your hosts, Brent Novak and Tana Satterley.
Good evening, Tana. How are you?
I'm good, Brent. How are you?
Good. You have an opening statement about Bobbi Kristina?
Well, Bobbi Kristina, like many celebrities we have covered, I think suffered from being in the limelight and not having a private life, coupled with the fact that I don't think any of the adults in her life really properly trained her how to function as an adult in society and in her world. She just kind of followed what she saw, and not all of that was good. Very much a tragedy indeed.
I agree with you too. I was thinking that her life just mimicked her mom and dad, from her boyfriend, their actions and everything. It was so bizarre and so similar. And history really did repeat itself. And is it on purpose or by accident? We'll try our best to figure that out. But first, I wanted to talk about who her parents were and why we're talking about Bobbi Kristina Brown, because by herself, she was not a very famous person. But because she came from royalty in the music industry, I just want to talk a little bit about her parents. And we did, our fourth episode was on Whitney Houston. So please go back and view that one. I'm going to start out with Bobbi Brown. If you don't know who Bobbi Brown is, during the late 1980s, but even before that, he was with a group called New Edition in his team, and it had 5 members, and they had hits like Mr. Telephone Man, Candy Girl, Cool It Now. The group was kind of, think of the boy bands today, only more R&B and hip hop. But even after they separated and Bobbi Brown had success on his own, the other members of that band did also. Ralph Tresvant went on and had a hit called Sensitivity. Johnny Gill had a song called Rub You the Right Way. The 3 other members that left that group, Ronnie DeVoe, Michael Bivins, and Ricky Bell, went on to form Bell Biv DeVoe. They had huge hits called Poison and Do Me. And Michael Bivins also helped as a producer and create the group Boys to Men. So from a musical aspect of these guys goes on and on. Bobbi Brown goes solo in roughly 86. His second album was Don't Be Cruel. Hits like My Prerogative, the Grammy award-winning song Every Little Step I Take. Bobby ends up winning 1 Grammy and 3 American Music Awards. He's got 5 Billboard top 10 singles by the time his peak is over. Now, that's just Bobbi. Now, the queen of pop, probably, in our opinion,
Yes.
Whitney Houston, known for songs I Will Always Love You, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and The Greatest Love of All, just to name a few. She had 11 number 1 hits, including 7 consecutive number 1s, 23 top 10 tracks, 6 Grammys, and 22 American Music Awards. And they met in 1989. If you want to see how they met, go to our episode and check that out. Now, back real quickly to Bobbi Brown. And then I am eventually going to let Tana talk. Bobbi Brown had 7 total children. His eldest, Landon, was born in 1986. And then he had 2 more children with Kim Ward. His middle daughter was Bobbi Kristina Brown, the only daughter Whitney and Bobby had together. After that, Bobbi goes and has 3 more kids. Houston, while with Brown, suffered miscarriages in 92, 94, and 96, and had her only child with Bobbi Kristina, born March 4th, 1993. So Bobbi Kristina's early years were a whirlwind of red carpet, concert appearances, and paparazzi. She became a media darling and often referred to as America's Princess and Whitney's Mini-Me. In 1993, she appeared beside her mom during an interview with Barbara Walters at age 8 months old. 94, at age 1, Bobbi Kristina also appeared with her mom on stage at the American Music Awards.
In 1998, her vocals were featured on her mother's song, My Love Is Your Love, for the album of the same title. When her mother brought her to the recording studio and held her up to the microphone, she said, "Sing, Mommy." And that can be heard on the first verse. And she also says, "Clap your hands" at the end of the track, which also Whitney had a concert and she brought Bobbi Kristina on stage for that song. And at the end, she looked down and said, "Is there something you want to say?" She's only 4 years old at the time, but she said, "I'm Bobbi Kristina Brown and I want you to clap your hands." Like, it was the cutest thing. Just this tiny girl. It was very sweet.
While Bobbi Kristina was only 6, Whitney told Oprah she was mostly ignoring the tabloids until she had Bobbi Kristina. Then she really tried to keep her daughter safe, mostly from other kids and what their parents would tell them. Around 2002, Nick Gordon meets Bobbi Kristina at school. Most news sources say Nick Gordon was an orphan. Whitney and Bobby take him in to live with them. Bobbi Kristina's age was roughly 9, while Nick Gordon's was roughly 12. Bobbi Kristina would frequently call him brother. Bobby Brown's oldest son and Bobbi Kristina's half-brother Landon Brown, in an interview around 2016, called Nick Gordon a leech, tag-along, and a weak individual that can't do for himself. More on Nick coming up in a second.
Not very nice things to say about him.
2003, Bobbi Kristina Brown was featured on her mother's Christmas album titled One Wish, the holiday album, on the song The Little Drummer Boy. In 2005, Being Bobbi Brown premieres on A&E. The reality series follows R&B singer Bad Boy Bobby Brown and wife Whitney Houston and the extended family over the course of 6 months. Him, Whitney Houston, Bobbi Kristina Brown, and some of Bobby Brown's children are featured in the show, along with personal manager and brother Tommy Brown.
Fast forward to 2007, Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown get divorced. Whitney was awarded sole custody of Bobbi Kristina. The Guardian writer characterized Brown's childhood as difficult because of her parents' drug problems. Brown grew up under the media glare, with her family issues playing out in a very public way. The media also scrutinized her weight, the teenage years being no picnic because the media focus was on her and her extreme growing pains.
Orphan, not orphan, but homeless Nick Gordon follows and lives with Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina Brown in their Atlanta home.
You know, that's got to be a nice gig if you can get it. That sounds terrible, but I think it's admirable that they take him in, but I feel like they should have went ahead and made it legal, right? It probably would have made life easier for him if they had.
Nobody ever adopts Nick. He's just there. He's there all the time. And later on, we'll see that his relationship with Bobby Brown didn't seem as strong as it did with Whitney and Bobbi Kristina, obviously.
Right. And one source that I read said that he wasn't an orphan, but his mom kicked him out because he was a troubled youth or whatever.
Right. Trouble for a teenage Bobbi Kristina. As she entered her teenage years, the cracks in her seemingly perfect life began to show. In 2009, she was hospitalized for emotional and physical issues, raising concerns about her mental and physical health. Reports of her alleged drug use and erratic behavior began to surface, casting a shadow over her promising future. Bobbi Kristina remained close to her mother, Whitney, who served as her anchor and confidant. Fast forward February 6th, 2012, shortly before Whitney Houston will be found in a bathtub dead, Bobbi Kristina Brown almost drowns in her bathtub, according to friends, and is saved by her mom, which is a very scary, similar thing that will be happening to Whitney just a few days later.
And then a few years later, herself again. I mean, what is it with these women in the bathtub?
I have no idea. How bizarre.
And a few days later, Whitney Houston dies of an accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use listed as contributing factors at the Beverly Hills Hilton Hotel. Bobbi Kristina was described as inconsolable, and a few days later, she was admitted to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. According to a family friend, she was just simply overwhelmed. In accordance with her mother's will, she was the sole beneficiary of Whitney Houston's entire estate, including clothing, jewelry, cars, special effects, furniture, actually to receive the funds in trust payments and installments, basically until she reached age 30. This source says that she was set to receive Houston's $115 million estate. Later on, when Bobbi Kristina does die, I believe I read that Whitney Houston's estate was only worth $20 million.
Too. That's what I heard too.
I don't know what happened between, when Whitney died and when Bobbi Kristina died, where all that money went.
A lot of that net worth could be valuated in debt, but 115 million to 20 million
that's a big jump.
Is a huge, huge jump.
Almost 100 million jump.
Almost $100 million. Yeah. All right. We are going to dive a little bit into conspiracies, and we didn't really do that in the last show. More so, I'm kind of surprising Tana with this. So I just want to see what her opinion is. Jaguar Wright?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Real briefly, I'm going to talk a little conspiracy on Whitney's death. According to singer Jaguar Wright, her manager Clive Davis is behind all of it. Oddly enough, she states in multiple YouTube videos and all over the internet that Clive wanted her dead because Whitney wanted control of the music. She said, if you look at how things went down, Whitney's body was found face down in a very hot tub. Ray J was the last person that saw her alive. According to reports, Brandy was the person that found the body. The room was a mess when everybody got in there. Autopsies have stated that there are abrasions on her forehead and abrasions across her nose. She was missing 11 teeth, but there are no signs that those missing teeth were connected at all to the death in the tub. Bobbi Kristina Brown's aunt and Bobby Brown's sister, as Leola Brown believes that she was murdered. Leola Brown also believed that Nick Gordon was the killer of Bobbi Kristina Brown. I'm not so sure on all of it. We do cover it more in depth than the other episode. I do feel it's interesting to know that both Bobbi Kristina Brown and Whitney Houston died in a tub and also were missing teeth, which is very fascinating and odd.
Very odd.
And interestingly enough, Nick Gordon was at each location both times. It could be nothing and it could be everything. I don't know. Sometime after Whitney's death, Nick Gordon and Bobbi Kristina Brown began dating and move in together. February 19th, 2012, further reports claim that Bobbi Kristina is not handling her mother's death well and has turned to drugs to help her cope, as reported by the Daily Beast. While the rest of the Houston family ate together in a restaurant in Newark ahead of her burial, Bobbi Kristina was missing in action. After the funeral, Bobbi was allegedly found in a hotel room getting high. Though a spokesperson for the Houston family has denied this, there's apparently some disagreement over whether Bobbi, now 18 years old at the time, should be sent to rehab immediately or whether she should be allowed to wait until after her mother's burial.
That's pretty serious. If your family's wanting you to go to rehab before you can attend your mother's burial, and
yeah, you're only talking a couple days.
That must be very serious if they were talking about that. So a month after Whitney passed, Bobbi Kristina said she felt her mother's spirit and expressed her intention to carry on her mother's legacy by doing the singing thing, along with starting a career as an actor and dancer. She was subsequently cast in her acting debut for a recurring role as Tina, the receptionist, in Tyler Perry's For Better or Worse television series. Perry stated, she did a fantastic job and that kid has such a future. She's such an actor. I'm so proud of her. I'm telling you, as far as she wants to go in this business, she can. After rumors began, Brown had tearfully exited the set of the show. Perry came to her defense, stating that had never happened. Brown had hoped to be cast in Angela Bassett's biographical film, Whitney, based on her mother. When Bassett did not cast her, Brown called her a bitch. Bassett said she did not cast Brown for a number of reasons. She's not an actress, and acting is a craft. Brown later apologized to Bassett on Twitter after generating controversy among fans. I think it's interesting. You have two different opinions here. We have Tyler Perry, who's like, oh, she's fantastic. She's a great actress. And then Angela Bassett's like, she's not an actress.
I wonder if Bassett even auditioned her. I didn't look that up.
I didn't either, but I get the feeling that there probably wasn't much interaction and she probably wasn't even given the opportunity. I think she just had hoped to be cast.
March 2012, it is reported that Bobbi Kristina has no desire to continue any contact with her father, Bobby Brown, who, after divorcing Whitney Houston, remarried and had other children. Further reports claim that Bobbi is going so far as to change her last name to Kristina Houston to remove any association with her father.
Oh, I don't remember reading that. Wow.
Nick Gordon and Bobbi Kristina's relationship became a subject of public scrutiny as they were raised as siblings. However, Bobbi Kristina revealed in a 2012 interview that they were not blood related and they're not legally bound.
She's not wrong, but still, it's weird.
We've seen a lot of weird relationships so far in these podcasts, haven't we?
Yes, we have. That's a trend in Hollywood, I think.
It must be. It must be. And part of it also, you could take that grief into effect. It was Lisa Marie Presley and her first husband going back to him after the death of her son.
Yeah.
And this too after losing Whitney, and also Brittany Murphy and her husband and mom, which is the weirdest of all. And Tana's favorite story.
Yeah. Ugh. No.
October 24th, 2012, Bobbi Kristina makes her second foray into reality television, appearing on The Houstons, On Our Own, on Lifetime. The entire family is criticized for filming a reality show just months after Whitney Houston's death. Bobbi Kristina is frequently drunk while on the show.
And I tried to look things up because she does say she's going to start this whole music career and do the singing thing and follow in her mother's footsteps. But I could never find anything that she actually recorded or anything really that I didn't really see much that she actually sang and you can listen to, except for the reality show with her family. She had a music producer, and they were filming them having a conversation, and he asked her to sing. And you could tell she was very stopped up, congested, however you want to say it. And she blamed it on all the cigarettes she was smoking. And I was like, wow, that's got to be a lot to sound like that. Because she actually, to me, she sounded like she had a cold. It was that raspy. And she sang, and I got to say, bless her heart, rest in peace, but it was terrible. It was terrible.
Oh, boy.
She was not a singer.
Back on the cigarettes, Bobby Brown's oldest son also states, as I never seen anybody do drugs between her and Nick Gordon, but cigarettes. I saw a lot of cigarettes.
Ugh.
Bobbi Kristina and Nick Gordon announced their engagement in October 2012, surprising many people with the unconventional nature of their relationship. Brown said the couple received her grandmother Sissy's blessing prior to the engagement. Interestingly enough, in 2013, Sissy Houston, Whitney's mom, wrote a letter to Bobbi Kristina telling her not to marry Nick, and he was a bad influence. So whatever that meant, she said she got her blessing, wasn't so true.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to interject and no, in fact, Sissy Houston did not like Nick at all, mainly because she said everything is F this and F that. And he would do that to her face. And like one person said, who does that to Sissy Houston's face? I mean, out of respect, right? I mean, right. I don't blame her.
Nick and Bobbi Kristina's mutual friend Steven Steffo said that the couple would spend around $100 a day on cigarettes and drugs, to a point where they were so intoxicated, Bobbi Kristina would have cigarette burns from passing out while smoking. Terrible, right?
Yes.
June 5th, 2013, a police report was filed by a neighbor, Josh Morse, to Bobbi Kristina and Nick Gordon. He found a hate letter on his door on June 4th, calling him and his wife a miserable couple and on the bottom of our shoes. Josh wanted an incident documented because he had been having issues with the couple. Morse and his wife had filed over 10 noise complaints on Bobbi Kristina and Gordon, claiming they were the worst neighbors and neighbors from hell. Gordon and Brown had just been evicted from the apartment prior to dropping off the letter.
Interesting.
I know, crazy.
Again, going back to never properly raised to be functioning members of society.
No, it's true. On January 9, 2014, Bobbi Kristina Brown and Nick Gordon revealed that they had tied the knot. The marriage raised eyebrows due to the circumstances around the relationship and the lack of family approval. Family lawyer for Bobbi Kristina insists the two were never actually married.
Yeah.
Reports suggested that Bobby Brown, Bobbi Kristina's father, was not invited to the wedding and only learned about it through media.
They announced this in January in 2014. I just need to say here, 2014 was the year that I believe ended Bobbi Kristina's life because of everything that happened I don't think that Nick was a positive influence in her life. I think that he was there just to get what he could get because he didn't have anyone else. He knew that since Whitney was gone, that Bobbi Kristina was his golden ticket, basically. And he had to stay with her. And I think that he ventured into controlling, and there were allegations of abuse. All of that being said, of course, her family doesn't approve and doesn't like Nick. In fact, in March, her aunt, Marion or Pat Houston, took out a restraining order against him. I mean, it must have been pretty bad for all of that. Also in March, Bobbi Kristina's best friend, Chelsea Bennett, died of a heroin overdose. And here's the kicker. There were 3 men that were charged with her murder. One allegedly injected her with the lethal dose. Corey Ben Hanania, accused of administering the heroin, and Kevin McCaffrey, accused of dealing the drug, have both been charged with murder. A third man, Sebastian Andrade, is charged with concealing a death. The disturbing fact in this case, besides the fact that the victim passed away, is that it was almost 10 hours before the police were even contacted. They literally left her on the floor of that residence. 5 months later, after Bobbi Kristina loses her best friend, she has another close friend die. Shelby Darrington died from bleeding on the brain due to a concussion that she had suffered in a car accident the year before. So it's like her circle is just dwindling. First, her mother, her rock, her best friend, and she's reeling over that and spiraling all kinds of ways. And then she's losing friends left and right. This is just the icing on the cake, the year that just seals her fate, I feel like. So, Brent, take us into 2015.
In January 2015, she's found in her home in Roswell, Georgia, and she is non-responsive. What's interesting is that a lot of notes say Nick Gordon does CPR until the police arrive. According to Nick Gordon's mom in an interview, Nick went to his bedroom, Bobbi Kristina went to take a bath, and friend and sometimes roommate Max Lomas let in a cable man. Not sure when, but Max finds Bobbi Kristina not breathing. Max, not knowing CPR, gets Nick, who supposedly does. Nick gives her CPR. The cops arrive. According to Nick's mom, they do not help him. He doesn't get help until the EMT arrives later, which he did not give a timetable in the interview.
Interesting. So it wasn't Nick that found her, it was Max?
Max found her, yes. So anytime you hear that Nick was the person that found him, it was actually Max.
Wow. So Nick just didn't care at all. And obviously Max was looking out for her, right? And who is this Max guy?
According to the sources and what I got, that he just partied with them. So he sometimes stayed there, sometimes didn't. He was all over the place. And we'll find out another interesting tidbit about Max too, as you don't want to be friends with anybody named Houston or Brown, I guess, because life is not long.
No.
Bobbi Kristina Brown's cousin accuses aunt of drowning her to cover up Whitney Houston's murder. This, according to an article, March 10th, 2015. According to her cousin, Jared Brown, I will let it be known Kristina has always had suspicion about Pat Houston, he says. Jared Brown continues, Auntie Whitney was murdered, not drowned. That's a fact. Now the whole bathroom plot shows up again with Bobbi Kristina's situation? Come on. Are you people that bold to try to perform this act again on my family? Pointing toward Pat, he continued, and the public believes whatever these people put in their faces. I mean, it is convincing if you are not on the inside. However, I will let it be known that Kristina has always had suspicion about Pat Houston. Soon, evidence will be handed over to assist this investigation. Bobbi Brown's lawyer released a statement last month. Jared Brown, aka Jared Carter, aka YF Kennedy, continues to make statements and appear on television. However, he has not had any communication with Bobbi Brown or the Houston family. The statement read, he must be disregarded. Please do not attend any meet or greet organized by Jared Brown, as he is unable to provide access to Bobbi Kristina or information on her condition. This is a criminal investigation, and we do not need this sideshow. So while Bobbi Kristina Brown is in her induced coma, Bobby Brown's sister and nephew, Tina and Shay Brown, told E! Entertainment on February 10th, 2015, that Kristina Brown was getting better, and they were not listening to reports that she was probably brain dead at the time. Bobby Brown's oldest son, Landon, as mentioned previous, also states in an interview that her vital signs were drastically improving. Nick Gordon was not allowed to visit by any family members. In June of that year, Bobbi Kristina is moved to the Peachtree Christian Hospice Center, where she eventually died July 26, 2015. According to her brother Landon, she was moved because things were going too well and needed a certain type of care. She was more responsive. She was breathing on her own. There was no life support involved anymore. She was great. She was getting better and better. He left for California, and that's when she changed hospitals.
Wow.
I know. Interesting, right?
The funeral services were held on August 1st at St. James United Methodist Church in Alpharetta, Georgia. Brown was buried 2 days later between her mother and maternal grandfather at Fairview Cemetery in Westfield, New Jersey. Nick was not allowed to attend her funeral.
He tried and tried and tried. Or
Up
at least,
until the day. He was texting and calling and
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And this is interesting too. Bobby Brown's oldest son, Landon, also stated that in the same interview I saw him talk, Nick Gordon shouldn't be allowed to be there because he wasn't blood, he wasn't family, which I find very interesting because if my girlfriend died in a car accident, she's my girlfriend. I was in love with
Mhm.
her. Everybody should be able to pay the respects, but they
Right.
did not allow Nick to go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just because he wasn't family doesn't mean that he wasn't close to her, and especially since he basically grew up in their household together. I think that was, I do think that was a little cruel. Whatever you think of the guy, I agree. Everyone should be able to pay their final respects.
After death, the state filed a wrongful death suit against Nick Gordon, claiming he beat her and gave her a
Mm.
toxic drug cocktail. Gordon was found guilty of being responsible for her death by the civil lawsuit and was ordered to pay $36 million, which he did not have. No criminal charges were ever filed. This was a default judgment as Gordon never appeared in court. All right, so now we're going to get into the things after her death, and we'll talk even
Mhm.
more about the autopsy and some of the things that were similar to her mom. But Bobby Brown's other sister, Leola Brown, claims the bathtub did not kill her, but they starved her to death at the hospice center,
Oh,
claiming that, yes, that she was
what?
like 95 pounds when she passed away. And there was a lot of times that her eyes were open and she was responsive. Maybe there was a chance. There was more of a chance than the Houstons. This is kind of a battle of the Browns and the Houstons.
Right.
That Pat Houston was somewhat behind kind of ending her life. But if you see this in older people, you do tend to see like they stop eating, they're filled with morphine, and there's really no future. So possibly
Right.
somebody on the Houston side made this determination without asking Bobby Brown, or maybe Bobby Brown did and didn't tell his sister. But it
Mm.
sounds like somebody ended her life, maybe due from her suffering. It could have been that.
Maybe. But here's the thing, I think the family was delusional because, I mean, the first couple days she was at the hospital, the doctors, they placed her in an induced coma after determining her brain function was significantly diminished. And they told her family that a meaningful recovery would be a miracle. So,
Right. Well, those claims do come after the comas. She comes out of the coma, that she's doing better. So
yeah,
if you're
okay.
comparing it to being asleep and not moving, I guess just looking around is better. I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Here's an interesting side note, though. In November 2015, police arrest Taiwa Sabawama, 32, for posing as a nurse and giving hospice care to Bobbi Kristina Brown for nearly a month. Authorities said she impersonated a licensed nurse with a similar
Oh,
name. She
whoa.
found somebody with a similar name,
That's
Taiwa Sabawama. I'm not even pronouncing it right. How did you find that person? I have a hard time finding other
wow.
Brits.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I
Tana, I
can't.
bet you have a hard time finding
No.
Tana. Is
Yeah.
it Tana, Tana, Tona?
It's
Right?
yeah. Hannah Montana, okay?
Hannah,
That's what I tell people. Wow. But
And
she,
go ahead.
I guess just what? To be close to the family, close to the fame, to have, I don't know. Why would you do that?
Well, there's more to that story also, that this woman was charged to doing it in other hospices. So it could have just been
Oh,
happened and happenstance that she was trying to earn an income without having the proper
oh,
degrees and associates. But if you look at it from, does somebody want Bobby Pristina out of the picture? You know,
mm,
it's just a smidget of doubt. It
yes,
adds a smidget of doubt,
it
nothing more than
does.
that. Leola Brown also states interesting connection. Both Pat Houston and Nick Gordon were there during both Christina and Whitney's deaths or
Mm,
nearby. Leola's opinion is that Nick beat her and was taping her phone calls and listening to her conversations. That day, Bobbi Kristina called her cousin Mimi, who was also on the show The Houstons. Mimi said, "No, I'm not going to pick you up." The last person called was Josh, and Josh was on his way before Josh could get there. This is from an interview from Layla Brown. I
mhm.
don't have any clue who Josh was. And she never mentions during, it's from a Facebook chat that she put live sometime back. And she
Huh.
mentions Josh was on her way. And I thought maybe it was the Josh neighbor that we talked about earlier, but that guy isn't going to get Bobby Christina.
No, 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 no.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
As we continue, we talk about more of Bobby Christina's friends passing away. Max Lomas, who found Bobby Kristina in the tub, allegedly, dies on August 17th, 2018. He was 28 years old. He was found by a friend hunched over the toilet with a syringe nearby. The friend stated he
Mm.
saw him alive just 10 minutes earlier.
Oh
Heroin was
gosh.
listed as a suspect drug in play. Lomas told People
Mm.
magazine that he lived with them on and off and that there were a lot of drugs, partying, and fights while he lived with Nick and Bobby Kristina.
Mm. They're dropping like flies.
They're dropping like flies. Either they're dropping because they buy some bad drugs or somebody's killing them, and we have no
Yeah.
idea which is which.
Mm-mm.
What happened to Whitney's money? You talked about it a little bit earlier, and I have some notes on it as well. The latest will was updated in 2000, naming Bobby Kristina as a sole benefactor. At the
Mhm.
time of Whitney's death, she was estimated to be worth $20 million. Bobby Brown was not in the will. Bobby Kristina Brown received 10% of the money upon death, the rest going into a trust fund. 25% more was supposed to be given to her on her 25th birthday. And like you said earlier, the rest would be received on her 30th birthday. A conservator was appointed when Bobby was placed in a coma. That person had the rights to her assets, likeness rights, and legal claims.
I did read that, and I don't remember seeing who that was either, but my first guess was Pat Houston.
Nick Gordon claimed to be married to her, but the money possibly went back to Whitney's mom, Sissy, and her two brothers. We did not know if Bobby Kristina had her own will.
Since we do other shows here at Dead-Celebs podcast, including Are They Dead or Alive?
Yes.
One that would maybe surprise some people, Sissy Houston is 90 years old and she is still alive as of today, January 19th, 2024. Could you imagine your daughter and then your granddaughter passing and then you inheriting their I just can't even, that's not supposed to happen,
That's not supposed to happen. That's really, really sad.
It's really sad.
District Attorney Paul Howard kept his sealed investigation until March of 2016. According to the autopsy, she had alcohol, morphine, and marijuana, subscription drugs for sedation and anxiety, a substance connected to cocaine, but never stated what that substance was. Death was caused by lobar pneumonia and brain damage from lack of oxygen, and the death was classified as undetermined. She had multiple scratches and missing teeth. So both
Mm,
Jaguar Wright and Leola Brown have stated that they believe that both Whitney and Christina Brown were murdered for the rights to Whitney's song collection, and so everybody was out of the way. Now, I do think possibly that could have been with Whitney, but I'm not really 100%
mm,
sure on Bobbi Kristina Brown. But I do think that history repeated himself and Bobby was beating Whitney frequently, and Nick
mm.
Gordon did as well too. So
Yeah. Yeah, very sad. So after Brown's death, a television movie about her life was released, followed by a documentary on her and her mother. TV1 released Bobbi Kristina in 2017. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution wrote, the story is ripe with melodrama as newcomer actress Joy Rivas channels Bobbi Kristina's relationship with her mom, her love affair with Nick Gordon, and the aftermath of her mother's death. Lifetime released the documentary Whitney Houston and Bobbi Kristina, Didn't We Almost Have It All, in 2021, which the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called less an expose and more a loving tribute to these two women. I didn't watch that one, but now I think I need to.
As everything comes full circle, Nick Gordon dies January 2020 from an alleged heroin overdose in a Florida hotel. I don't have a lot of information on Nick because maybe one day we will do something on him. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
There sure are a lot of heroin overdoses surrounding Bobbi Kristina.
What are your thoughts on these particular murders? What's your opinion on them? Or not
These-
murders, but deaths. These deaths.
Well, I think that drug addiction is a disease. I do have family members who have struggled with it. I do have a family member that passed from a drug overdose. So I do sympathize. I think that I don't know what it's like to be a celebrity yet, but it's got to be a lot of pressure, and not just to perform and to be the best, but also peer pressure when you're going to these parties, and especially when you're dealing with grief, as with Bobbi Kristina. I mean, she loses her mom. I mean, I think that would just, that in and of itself, if nothing else happened after that, would be enough, destroy a person's life without the proper help, of course. But she loses her best friend and then another friend, and her family's against her and her relationship, and she's turning to drugs and alcohol, and she's just trying to figure it out. She's so young, 22 years old. The brain is not fully developed until you're 25 years old. You can't even really make real life decisions until you're 25. And I tell my daughter that all the time, by the way. She just didn't ever really get the chance to grow up properly, in my opinion. And she didn't have the best influences and the best parental guidance, unfortunately. All of these cases were individual and unique, and the people that died. And of course, her one friend, somebody was actually charged with murder for injecting a lethal dose. So that one could have been prevented. Well, all of them could have. But at the end of the day, if you or someone is struggling with addiction, and I'm not being silly here, I mean, please get help, because it's not worth it. I know from experience. I lost my brother, and it's just, you're robbing your family of your life, and getting to watch you grow up and have your own family. So wow, I didn't mean for that PSA to be in there, but please, I mean, you can reach out to us. Our emails are on the screen, or if you're listening, my email is Tana@dead-celebs.com. Brent?
Yeah. I mean, I really have no idea how I'd help you, because I don't know what to say. So if you need help, reach out to Tana.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, and even if I can, I will try to get some help for you. I will try to do my best.
Well, you've experienced that, so you
yeah.
I would be like, I don't know what to do. Call somebody.
Yeah.
But if you're listening and you're young, or you don't start, like, I think that's the biggest thing. I know there's a lot of drugs involved, but I do believe also abuse has a lot to do with this, especially in Bobbi Kristina's, because I don't think, even though we know Whitney was Bobbi did not get her involved in drugs, but I think the physical abuse was real, from what our research shows. Whitney was doing drugs way before Bobbi, and a lot of people put that towards Bobbi and blame him. But I think from what we found is Bobbi definitely was not gentle to her. Seeing that Nick and Bobbi Kristina followed that same path. I don't know what happened to her, but he wasn't kind to her.
No.
And that's not good.
A terrible cycle of abuse.
Yeah, sure is. Tana, you have some trivia?
Yeah, just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. But for those of you who didn't know, we did touch on this a little bit. But her maternal grandmother was singer Whitney Houston. Her godmother was gospel singer CeCe Winans, and her godfather was music executive Clive Davis. She paid a tribute to her late mother, Whitney Houston, on what would have been her 49th birthday by inking a tattoo with Houston's initials surrounded by 4 doves on her wrist.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that's Tana's trivia. Thank you very much, Tana, for
Yes.
giving us a little trivia.
A little bit.
Did Bobbi Kristina have any quotes?
Just a few.
Okay,
And
all right.
they were about her mother, but that's okay.
We're up to Tana, let's hear some quotes from Bobbi Kristina Brown.
Okay, so the first one, of course we had our arguments. We had everything. But at the end of the day, that was still my mother, my confidant, my everything. Also, no one knows what an amazing spirit she was. She wasn't only a mother, she was my best friend. And then finally, everything people are saying about her, all that negativity, it's garbage. That's not my mother. So I think she was very protective and loyal and looking out for her mom. And they had a very close relationship, obviously.
It's sad. It's sad to see this kind of stuff happen. Tana, where can everybody get a hold of you?
Well, my email is Tana, Tana, at dead-celebs.com.
And I can be reached at Brent at dead-celebs.com. And our website for all our online episodes, if you download any of the podcasts as well, the links are all there, dead-celebs.com. Well, congratulations. We've done officially 10 celebrities. And I think I numbered them wrong last time, but this is our 10th celebrity. So
yeah,
congratulations and cheers to you. Yeah.
All right. Congrats. Yes. 10 episodes.
10 episodes. All
and
right.
Some other shorts.
And some other stuff in there. We've got more episodes, but 10 specifically focusing on a celebrity.
Yes. Very
and good. Follow us on YouTube. We're also at Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere where you can download podcasts. So check us out. Please like, subscribe, comment, give us a rating, tell a friend. We're growing and we love you. We love you and we'd love for you to be a part of it. So
yay.
That's it for tonight. Anything else, Tana, before we go?
That's all.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Check out our sister podcast, Talk Murder to Me. Step into the captivating world of true crime with an unexpected twist of humor. With John's compelling narrative and Jen and Nicole's amazing banter, this podcast offers an entertaining and unique approach to true crime storytelling. Talk Murder to Me can be found on any podcast platform, also streaming live Saturdays on YouTube. For a legal disclaimer, please visit www.dead-celebs.com. The Actor Factor brings the industry knowledge to you firsthand from professionals, including working actors, directors, managers, and more. Find it anywhere podcasts are streamed.
If you are struggling with thoughts of suicide, please reach out. Help is available. Dial 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.